Hey everyone, good to see you this afternoon. Thanks for joining me today. So we're going to go over our sixth part today on the tiled walk-in shower. So I'm really looking forward to showing you some of my tips on tiling and how to go about this, because I always say this should be one of the really good fun parts of the project. And if you just kind of follow my guidance and use some of the techniques that I use along with some of the great thin sets, it'll really take out the frustration. And really just always planning ahead and having a game plan is really what makes the big difference with a successful day of tiling. Now, I'm not going to say that every day of tiling is all that fun. There is some days that things just don't work out. You're either chipping tiles or you're not being able to get them cut correctly. So just know that when you're using hand tools, when you're doing any carpentry type of stuff, there are your good days and bad days, just like a mechanic working on a vehicle. You're going to sometimes just slip your hand off of that screwdriver, and you're going to kind of hurt those knuckles, or just be cussing because there's certain issues. But that's really what this whole channel is about, is trying to simplify this for you and make this easier for you. So on the way in here, if you could just give me a like on this video, helps out that algorithm and it really keeps me motivated to keep going. I also wanted to thank all the new subscribers to this channel. I know I always keep saying that, but it's tremendous to see hundreds of new people come on this channel, and I'm really happy to see that so many people are getting help out of it. So so this course that I created on teachable.com, I'll show you here in a minute. We're going to get into it. And really, I just want to have all this stuff available on YouTube, whether you purchased my course or not. If you purchase it, obviously you're really helping out me, helping my platform. And really what I'm looking for when people get into this course is getting some feedback from you to know exactly what what kind of things you need more clarification on, maybe some different items in bathrooms or in showers that I don't have provided here, anything to make this course better, so that this is the place that you would really advise your friends and family to go to when they're building a custom tiled shower. And I really do think that custom tiled showers are going to be very popular this year, primarily because of all the shortages of all of these different products. If you've gotten any quotes from other contractors doing like a tub surround, like fiberglass or acrylic, or even like the Swastone type of materials, I've been just hearing these huge delays on getting this stuff in here, like 6 months out for some colder products, from what I hear from suppliers around here. And people just aren't willing to wait that long. I mean, there's, most of you are doing a bathroom had probably been putting this off for years, and now it's just getting to the point where you just can't stand it anymore, or there's actually a plumbing leak that's actually creating urgency for you to fix it. So I actually just got a call from a client or someone in the area of here in Pittsburgh not too long ago. I think it was Thursday. She called me, and they had a remediation company come in because there was a plumbing leak in the shower, and they removed the entire shower receptacle because of the leak. And now she's trying to find somebody to come out and replace that entire shower unit. And unfortunately, when you're getting into tile work as a retail customer, or as a contractor coming out and do this stuff, it's very expensive. I mean, most showers that are 3x4, say even just a regular standard 3x4 shower, roughly $6,000-7,000 by the time you're done with purchasing the tile and everything associated with. So it's a big pricey item. That's one of the main reasons I'm trying to teach how to go about doing this, because you can get most of these things. Now, granted, it's still going to be expensive. You still got to get the waterproofing system. You're still purchasing all the tile. But you can get it down to a relatively small number to handle. I mean, like this shower that I'm going to be showing you here, it was roughly around $1,100 worth of waterproofing, which the waterproofing system I did suggest is weedy. It is a little bit expensive, but I do find it to be very DIY friendly and kind of foolproof in a lot of ways. There's a lot of reasons I recommend, if you're doing your first shower, to do a weedy system. But tile, everything incorporated with it, it's probably around $3,000. So you're still talking about a significant amount of money. But hey, if you can't get these acrylic shower surrounds, if you can't get these things in within six months, kind of what other choice do you have? Now, there is other alternative waterproofing systems that I do have on this channel that I show you that can significantly reduce the cost, but it usually increases the amount of labor and the effort to actually do it. So, Yeah, Laws, thanks for coming in here. So, yeah, this live stream is all about me, you getting to know me a little bit more, me helping you out with some of your questions possibly. So, if you have any questions, leave them in the live chat here. Be more than happy to pause the video and going over things. But really, what I'm trying to do here with this course is just to help everybody out. I'm going to have it on my YouTube channel, so be sure that if you're seeing this live, you can always go to my YouTube channel, go under playlist. Here, let me shrink myself down here so you can see what I'm talking about. So underneath my YouTube channel, you can go to playlists, okay? And then under tile walk and shower online course, you can view that playlist, and it has all the other portions of this. So this is really just walking through the entire course that I have on Teachable, but you'll find that inside the course, it's just a lot more detailed information. You got links to things. And one of the things I really think going offline, getting off of YouTube, it helps you prevent you from being distracted here on YouTube. I know when I'm on it, I'm always getting notified from either comments that I've made on somebody else's channel or some other YouTuber puts out a new video. And then there's the commercials. You're constantly interrupted by commercials. So I think the Teachable site, if you're really serious about doing bathrooms, this course will keep you focused and keep you put everything in a place where you're not going to get distracted. That's really the big thing. A lot of, as I'm saying, I'm putting this all on this live stream on YouTube, and the videos are identical to what I have on the platform because I'm just streaming them right off of the platform. But looking at my site here, it's bathroomremodeling.teachable.com. You can also go to bathroomremodelingteacher.com as well, and I have the links into there as well. But this is the platform that I developed it on. And it's very user-friendly. I think it's great for all your devices, easy to go through. But right now I have 3 courses, and I combined all 3 together in one. I call it the DIY Bathroom Geek Collection. And what this will, this Geek Collection, it is more expensive than all the others because I'm combining them all together. But what I plan to have with that collection is, as I continue to put out more content or more courses, I'll probably be adding that to the collection. It has to make sense with the Bathroom Geek Collection. But yeah, probably my curbless shower course, I'll probably be adding that to that as well. So if you purchase the collection, you're going to get some future stuff out of it. I'm not going to say that forever every single new course that I come out with is going to go in there, but I definitely do want to get like at least 4 or 5 courses in this collection. But really, I do feel that all 3 of these really go in line with one another pretty well. So the one that we're going to be going over today is the custom tiled walk-in shower course. And this is specifically just the shower. So it's demoing the existing shower. It's installing the new waterproofing system and then tiling it and then putting in the glass enclosure. Whereas the tub and shower bathroom remodel in 7 days or less is basically the entire process of remodeling a bathroom. So gutting it all the way down to the studs, putting new drywall up, insulating, some framing tips in there. Now it's primarily for a tub and shower, putting a regular tub in, but all the processes of drywall finishing, installing the toilet, installing the vanity, all that stuff is included in there. And it really highlights a day-by-day way of going about it. So you can really incorporate that really well with the tiled walk-in shower because it has all those other components, and then it also has that timeline of how you would go about doing it. So these 2 courses for sure go together. And then if you're doing a custom tiled shower, you might have a situation where you need custom glass. So if you're building a bench, if you have a knee wall, if you have things like that, you're going to have to put custom glass in that enclosure because it's really hard to find any kits that will fit a lot of these things, especially going over a bench or going over a knee wall. There really isn't too many kits that that are universal that way. You might be able to find one here or there, but you're going to have to really make sure that you build the knee wall at the height of everything that's on those kits. So, but the custom glass will, prepare you to be able to measure, order, and install your own custom glass, which will definitely save you a lot of money. If you've gotten quotes for custom glass, you know what I'm talking about. Really, really, really expensive stuff. So, all right, so let's get into this course. So be sure that, in this video, down below in the description, I have the link to this, the course as well, but I also have a guide, and I think you really should go through this. This is free. You don't have to pay anything for this. Just get into the links in the description of this video. But this guide will go through different ways of going about building a curb shower, some things you want to keep in mind when you're doing it. And then, like I said, a lot of links to different products, different ways of going about doing this. I kind of go through a pros and cons list of, the different ways of going about it. So everybody's, bathroom obviously is custom, has their, not completely custom, but have their own plumbing configurations, has their own challenges. And, so there's a lot of different situations where, maybe the weedy system, the waterproofing system that I chose for this bathroom might not work for yours. And I kind of go through and highlight some of the reasons for it. And, one of the big ones I keep touting is that if you don't know where your drain location can be moved to, if you're like replacing a tub and installing a walk-in shower, and you can't see the joists underneath, you don't know what the framing looks like, you don't know if there's, a lot of times I've come into situations where there's can lights for your kitchen, and they're right below the tub area, and you would have to move your light fixture in order to get your drain over there. So sometimes you don't have the ability to move the drain to where you want, and you can't get it centered. And that's where I do recommend going with something like a Schluter system, because you have more flexibility to cut that pan down. And you can cut weedy pans down, but they're very expensive. And I, as a contractor, I want to know if I can move that drain to that center location, or even the offset. They do make pans that are offset. So that might be a safer bet if you're replacing a tub and putting in a walk-in shower. But there's no, most likely that drain location of the shower pan isn't going to be exactly what the tub is. So you still might have a question mark of whether you can move your drain properly. But that's where I would go with Schluter, because Schluter, you can get a 38 by 72 inch pan, and you can really adjust that drain location. Now, obviously an off-center drain is not ideal for tile work. It does become a little bit more difficult to make your tile work look great. It all depends on what you're doing. But these are all things that if you plan ahead and think ahead on it. Now, and if it's your own home, you can probably do a little bit more investigation and try to find out exactly where those joists are and make sure that you don't have any problems with it. But yeah, this whole curved kit basically goes through different methods. It goes through a time analysis of getting to tile. That's really what a lot of these waterproofing systems are. If you're able to speed up the time to be able to install them, they're going to cost more. It's just all about getting to that tiling process. So if it's your own home, obviously you could probably take a little bit more time with this, and you're not as concerned about it. But if you're a contractor, time means a lot. You don't want to be going out and drawing out a project 3-4 weeks, or you're really just going to see a diminished return for all the time that you're putting into things. And I think that's really one of the main, reasons why a lot of some contractors don't get in the bathroom remodeling, because it is complicated. It is a timing thing. It does take, there's a certain order of operation you have to go about it. And if you miss it, if you don't get to it, it's like, for instance, if I set my waterproofing for my shower pan system, and I don't get to put my tile down on the shower floor in the day that I want to, then it's kind of destroying a whole day to be able to really start tiling on that back wall. Because I always recommend doing your tile on your shower floor first, so that your wall tile can overlap the floor tile. But if you don't get it in a timely manner, then you kind of screwed yourself for a whole day's worth of, you just go over there and install the shower floor, and then you're kind of like really behind on your schedule. So it's real easy to draw out a bathroom remodeling project. And if you're a DIYer, if you're somebody at home trying to remodel this for your parents or your own home, and you only have 2 bathrooms, or you only have 1.5 bathrooms, this means a lot. You need to get this back in working order for your family. And that's where a lot of these companies that are doing these acrylic systems, they can say, hey, we could come in and put this in a day. But they really do have a high price tag for that kind of service. It really is enticing, though, because you know that you can get, you're going to have a working shower within a day or two. But again, that's what this whole course is about, is keeping you organized, keeping you from going to Home Depot and Lowe's every single day, and preventing you from, losing the time frame it needs to do it. But I really feel like especially this tiled walk-in shower and the tub and shower course that I have, that if you were to take a week off of work, you're going to have a functional bathroom by the end of that week. Now, you might not have everything that you wanted to get done in that time frame, but at least you would have a functional shower to actually shower in, because once you get the waterproofing up and installed, there's no reason you can't actually use that shower. So you're not going to be stuck without having a bathroom at all. But if you simplify, like if you follow my guidance on this simple tiled shower that I installed here, it's really not going to take you that much time to tile it and get yourself ready for it. So, that's really what my hope is that I can get you, getting you done this efficiently. That's what I'm all about, is efficiency. So everything that I install in these things and all the new products that I try to look at and find are all the ones that really just make the project flow and easier and faster. Because time is money. I'm kind of an impatient person when it comes to things. I used to flip a lot of homes, so timing was always the biggest issue. You could spend obviously spend a little bit more money on materials and stuff, but if you didn't get that whole house ready for sale, then you're losing a lot of money in that time frame. Maybe not in these days. These days it seems like if you hold on your house to another month, it's worth another 10%. So who knows? Who knows exactly? So, hey, Josh, good to see you here. Thanks so much for joining me. All right, so let's get into this. Let's stop rambling here and get into this. So looking at my courses here, let's go into as a student. So if you purchased my courses or you bought the Geek Collection, you would have all three of them here that you can select into. Let me try to get this feathered out a little bit further here. And then getting into the tiled walk-in shower. So just briefly going through this again, it goes through the framing process, the demo process, moving the shower drain, a lot of different scenarios within this, because not everyone's home is going to be the same, and that's always a big question mark as far as how that's going to work out, and you really sometimes don't even know until you get rid of your existing shower. So there are definitely a lot of gray areas when it comes to bathroom remodeling, and a lot of it is you just can't tell until you remove it. But I'm always touting to people, if you're going to remodel your bathroom, if you're going to put in a new tiled walk-in shower, which has significant cost to it, I really do recommend that you replace everything else in the bathroom. Now, that's all within reason. I understand if you had a big bathroom, if you had one of these bigger homes that have a 100 square foot bathroom, it might be a lot more than what you want to spend to be able to do that. But if you're in an older home, 1940s, 1950s, I really implore you to take all that plaster off the wall. You might even want to just replace the subflooring as well, and inspect all that plumbing that you're about to build all this expensive stuff on top of, because you really want to pay attention to what the drains look like, what the water supplies look like. If you have any galvanized, you better replace it, or it's just not going to last long. You don't want to be spending thousands of dollars over top of a bad foundation. And then ultimately, I feel like once you remove everything in the bathroom, it just makes everything streamlined, makes things easier. You can put blocking in the walls for your accessories so your towel bars don't fall off immediately. You're able to rearrange things for your vanity. If you're getting a new vanity for your bathroom, making sure that it doesn't interfere with any shelving within there. All types of things that just allows you to prepare yourself and make things easier. Putting blocking on the edges of your shower so that you have something to anchor your shower doors into. That's really, really important. So the framing entity of it, really is helpful when you have everything removed. And, obviously I have a whole bunch of tips in that. In this particular shower course, I installed the Delta shower system. So it has a separate valve from the diverter valve. So you have your volume control that adjusts the temperature of your shower. And then you have a diverter that goes from the handheld to the shower head. And you can honestly actually add on another feature if you wanted to, or they just work both at the same time. But the Delta shower systems, I've been really happy with. I've been using that well over a decade. I probably have been using Delta since I really started out in 2000, and it really hasn't been too much if they've changed. I mean, their universal valves are pretty much exactly the same. Now, they do have a lot more options out there because PEX has become a really, really popular way to do plumbing. I'm definitely a big fan of it. I think PEX B is probably one of the simplest and most available out there, so I'm always installing PEX B. But, PEX A is, the newer tools and stuff are definitely compelling. especially for a contractor. But I'm not willing to make that switch yet. I just have all my fittings all in this PEX B, and I really feel like a DIYer is not going to spend $300 on an expansion tool. They're still going to want to just use the crimps that, the crimpers that you can purchase fairly affordably. I think, you can get some of these off-market crimpers for $30, I think. So that's way, way less than the expanding tool. But again, waterproofing is the weedy system. I really think as a beginner to start out with that. And then we're going to be getting into the tiling here. So this is a tiled curb shower. So, it's going to be about doing a curb system. I am going to eventually have a curbless system out, but check out those recent videos I just put on my channel on the curbless. That'll help you out if you're trying to evaluate that. In this one, I'm not doing any recessed niches, but I do have some tiling information on niches. This particular shower just went with a glass shelving unit. Now this shower was literally only 40 inches wide by 3 foot deep. So, there wasn't a whole lot of room. And then I also had kind of an exterior wall in that back wall. So there really wasn't any room for a recessed niche. You have to think about that when you're planning on doing your shower. You don't really want to have a recessed cavity in an exterior wall, or you're not going to have any insulation value. And then, it's not only is it going to be cold or warm, it's going to crack the grout joints and cause some issues. So you always need to have insulation behind that area. And in this particular situation, it just didn't make sense in such a small space. And really, if you're trying to be efficient and trying to get things done quickly, the niches do just add on a lot of time. At least in my jobs, I add on at least 3 hours worth of work to finagle that. And that really depends, and that's a wild card. Like, there might be wires where you want to put the niche. There might be a plumbing stack where your niche is, and that could all increase a lot more time. So I feel like sometimes I really do give clients to say, hey, we're going to plan to put it here. I can't promise that. And if you want me to move all this, it might actually cost a little bit more to be able to do this. So when we get into it, you can evaluate whether you really want the recessed niche. Because I really kind of feel if the niche isn't centered, unless you put it in the corner somewhere, if you don't have a recessed niche that's centered, I just think it looks weird and out of place. And I'd rather not have it in it at all. So centering is important, and if it takes a lot of work to do that, you can be adding on a lot more hours to make that happen. So in this one, I did not do that. And then I also go into the frameless doors as well. Frameless doors, I think that's the extra money that you might be spending on the niche. I think getting a good custom glass, or not custom, but just a glass shower doors, a 3/8 inch thick glass, I think is the better way to go. Very durable stuff. And, keep your money for something like that. But these type of things are getting really back ordered right now, getting harder to find a selection of different things. So, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. You can put a temporary shower curtain up and wait for your shower doors, but at least you'll be able to get that in. So let's get into, so we went through, in my last part 5, we went through thin sets. Thin sets a really important part of choosing for your tile. I just really think if you get an Ardex X5 or Ardex X77 or these non-sag thin sets, going to make the tiling process a lot easier, and it's just the pot life is just supreme, really superior. You have at least 3 hours of pot life, which really makes a big difference, especially if you're a beginner doing all these cuts. There's nothing worse than getting back to your bucket of thin set and it's already flashed and it's already hardened in your bucket and you can't use it. You just wasted your money on it. So I really recommend getting a good thin set. It makes things a lot easier. Ever since I found out Ardex products, now there are other brands that are great, but I just still haven't found anything that was nearly as good as as far as the pot life and the non-sag quality as Ardex. It is a little expensive, $35 a bag, probably twice as much as what you're paying for at the big box stores, but the aggravation that you'll be saving there will be well worth it. You really never want to be using any of those buckets of pre-mixed mastic, even if they do say that it's made for floors and different things like that. Over waterproofing systems, I have not seen a mastic, like a pre-mixed bucket of anything that is really approved for in a shower. A lot of times if you were to use mastic like that, it can mold behind it because water's going to get through that tile layer one way or the other. It's eventually, the grout, you can use a graded grout and use epoxy, but at some point water's going to get behind there. And then if you have some like organic material like mastic, it can actually mold under there, start loosening up the tile, and you can have all types of sorts of problems. So, You know, I know mixing thin sets, some people just hate doing it or having anything to do with it, but it really is the best and most professional way to go about it. So last time we went over the shower pan size, but I did want to show you one other thing I added on here, because we just did the travertine shower floor in here. So I had a method of installing that. So go back to that video if you want to check that out. But I wanted to show you some of the new ways that I've been implementing just from learning from a lot of the other contractors here online. You know, I'll be the first to say I don't know everything for sure. I've been doing it for 20 years, but it's awesome to see all these other tile bathroom remodeling contractors out there showing their methods, showing how they do things, because I've definitely picked up some great ideas or great ways to going about it, and I think it speeds things up. But if you're doing a small shower like this, you can easily kind of lay it out before you go and installing it. But what I wanted to show you, which I think is great, I think it's a real popular way to do it, is to just use some larger format tile and just use basically 4 pieces of tile to make your whole shower base. It really kind of eliminates the amount of grout joints on the floor. So if you have a client that is skeptical of tile because they've had problems in the past where they can't get that grout clean, or whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why grout can be tough to clean. One of them is, one of my big pet peeves is getting grouts that are very coarse in nature. So something that's really gritty, it's just going to allow soap scum and all the stuff that you use in the shower to gum it up and make it difficult to clean. It doesn't matter whether it's stain resistant or not at that point. If it's gritty, it's going to hold on the dirt and it's going to hold on the stuff, and then you're going to have to really take a good scrubbing pad to clean it. And who really wants to do that? So I think some people that are kind of traumatized by their last tiled showers don't want a tiled floor, or they don't want tile in their shower, and that's why some of these solid surface shower systems are appealing to them. But I think this is a great alternative. Putting a large format tile on a shower floor, pretty awesome. You have very minimal grout joints to clean, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't take that much more time. It takes a little bit more skill, I won't lie. It definitely takes a little bit more time, but here, I'll just show you. Let's just go through it, and then you can tell me your thoughts. So I'm basically just using... All right, so then we'll go ahead and just glue this all together. Now, don't worry about being completely tight, because you really do want to keep a 1/4 inch reveal all the way around the floor. But yeah, basically I'm just putting these pieces here to outline my drain. So let's just get the outsides first. Angel's paintings, good to see you here. Okay, so we'll just take this template, put it right on our tile here that we have set up. So what I'm using are these leveling clips to hold everything into place. Make sure that I have my center roll nice. So we just need to make sure this stays in center, and then we can just simply reference our tile for squareness. And then just trace this. I use a black magic marker for this. And then typically I just cut the line so that I can give myself that little bit of expansion and contraction joint. So just mark this all the way around. Okay, so then at this point, we need to cut the diagonals from here to these points here. So you want to take a straight edge and just go from the corner point to the corner point. Okay, so that goes right to that corner. We'll be cutting that line. So now we can just cut these pieces. Now you're in camera, Mom. That was my mom's house I'm doing this on, actually. So yeah, that Montelid tile cutter is great. So doing large format tile definitely is going to require to definitely have a wet saw, and then obviously some of these bigger tiles are a little bit more challenged. But at the end of the day, it really is an awesome look. Like I said, it eliminates all the different grout joints on the floor. The only thing is it doesn't really end up making anything cheaper, that's for sure. Because even though I've done this a few times, I would probably order 1 or 2 pieces more. And really the square foot price doesn't really change on these things. But I think this tile was roughly $8 a square foot, but it was 3 square foot per tile. So you're talking about adding another $25, $30 for another couple extra 2 pieces, and a lot of time your tile suppliers won't just sell you 1 or 2. You have to buy a whole nother box. Okay, so now once you get this lined up, then you can just take your plate cover to get more accurate and just basically line your drain cover up with the corners of your diagonal cuts. So I'm trying to make this as even as possible here. And remember, with your Schluter drain, you have a lot of wiggle room. So if you were a 1/4 inch off one way or the other, as far as center, it's not a big deal. You'll be able to move that around. So I have all these links of all these tools in there as well. I'm not really trying to promote all these things. These are just things that I use. And if you're a tile contractor, a lot of these things
those are the cuts that you want to make.
Ones that
with your grinder,
I've been using for a long time.
Polish everything.
Worked really well. But yeah, you want to kind of polish the sides down as well, because obviously they could be sharp by just using the regular cutter or the tile saw. So just polishing them down a little bit. But this particular tile that we used, it was a very slip resistant type of floor, had a rough surface to it, so it was really great for shower floors. And like I said, at the end of the day, I think it's going to keep it a lot cleaner and a lot easier to stay clean than even just regular mosaics.
That'll work much better. Okay, so we're going to be using a 1/4 inch by 3/8 inch square notch trowel for this. So now that we have everything templated, it should be pretty easy just to go ahead and apply the thin set. So the first thing you want to do is just use the back side of the trowel and work the thin set into the substrate. This is called burning the thin set into the substrate.
You can also see how loose that thin set is. Shower floors, I've learned it the hard way. I've had a couple showers over the 20 years I've been doing this, where the thin set was just a little too thick and dry.
Line, and that's where burning this into the substrate gives you a nicer lines. So the more consistent you can make this, the better tile job you're really going to have.
What was I going to say is that I've had the thin set a little too dry, and then it wasn't bonding well to the floor tile, and over time they ended up popping up, especially with the mosaics.
Okay, so then your flange,
these larger,
you want to make sure
tile
that you have plenty of thin set around the drain, because that's where that bonding flange is going to bond. And then just make sure this is sticking up fairly far, because you're going to press this down after you get your tile in. So, but to prepare this, you need to get basically thin set bonded all the way around this flange. So just take your margin trowel and add thin set all the way around. Okay, so this is important, because if you stepped on the drain, you want to make sure you have support. So we'll just sit this inside here, and I'm just going to leave this way up. This is way higher than I need it, but we'll press it down after we get the tile set. Okay, so you definitely want to back butter these large tile
leveling clips are nice. Just have to be careful on the relief joints that you're making. You don't really want to, if you are going to use them in the corners, you don't really want to put any pressure on them. Actually, I wouldn't even really use them in the corners, because that's the part that you need to have it kind of pitched down towards the shower. So now obviously this is a Schluter system I did it on, but you could definitely do this over Weedy, same kind of concept. I guess I did use the clips in the corners. Oh well, but just as long as everything's staying pitched towards that 1/4 inch per foot, you'll be fine. Some scenarios you might not be able to put those clips on those diagonals.
Okay, then you can just press this down to where it's below, just slightly below the tile, because you don't want that drain to be sitting up above this in any fashion. But this is where, see, you have all this movement with the Schluter drain, which is nice to be able to adjust this. Okay, so we just make sure we space this drain nicely. So just get a horseshoe shim on the other side here. There we go. That should work.
So let me know your thoughts about large format tile in a shower floor. Okay, so that was actually a YouTube video I put on here, but I thought it was important to put that in here just for that guidance on here. And again, like, you know, these templates that I have, or that I've been using, has really helped out, just even just if it's just for the reference of telling where your let me shrink this down. It's not going to shrink for me or what? Guess it doesn't want to. What I was going to say is these templates that I've been using in these last few showers have really helped out on, it just doesn't want to shrink for me. Oh well, that doesn't really matter. But it's basically just using that 1/4 inch plywood strips and ripping them. I just rip them down on the table saw. Shore ply is great stuff. I like that. It's like a Lawan type of material. But I just rip them down like 1.5 to 2 inch strips and then just glue them together to create the template. But what it does is like gives you a good reference. You can lay out all the tile that you have, especially if you had, you know, some kind of weird design. If you had a herringbone style floor, or if you had, you know, even those dotted standard tile having some kind of patterned floor tile. Basket weave I guess is what I'm thinking. Basket weave, I guess, you know, you usually can just do that however you want, but you know, it just helps you to reference, you know, make sure you have even cuts on either side. Makes it easier for you to reference that. But I have all these different links in here for things. And then again, if you're part of the course, you could always just click here and leave a comment, and I'll be sure to get back to you. But I just wanted to reference that alternative for a shower floor. And that's one of the things I'm going to be doing with this course as well, is continuing to add relevant information, or as people get asked more questions about certain things, I'm going to add them on here so that we can, you know, make sure that we answer most of those questions within here. But we're going to get into this tiling back wall area here. So I'm going to give you some concepts on about going about that, and hopefully it'll make it easier for you. But one of the big items that I think is worth purchasing is a laser. Now there's many ways of going about tiling a shower. So, you know, there's a lot of people that really love using ledger boards. They don't like using a laser to go off of that first row. But I used to do ledger boards all the time. Basically just keeping, you know, whatever your first row was, leaving that first row out and just using some kind of straight edge. Usually a lot of people just use like a piece of trim or just like you know, some kind of straight edge piece, and they would screw it into the wall, and then they set the towel on top of that and go work their way up. I used to do that all the time until lasers really became popular, and then it just makes more sense just to follow that laser, and I think it reduces the amount of time overall that you're spending. I never really did like piecing in the tile at the bottom afterwards, so I guess that's you know, my big reason for wanting to do using the laser. So let me try to get this thing up here. I don't know why I can't. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, so we'll get into this video on that. Handyman, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, you'll see a lot of the processes of this. It is, you know, some certain specific tools that I think make things simple. A lot of showers, like this particular shower, I did use, I don't even know if I used a wet soft for anything, come to think of it. I'd have to think about it. It might show in this video at some point. Maybe I did make a couple cuts on this left side, but there are a lot of situations where I don't even bring out the wet saw at all. So a good snap cutter and just a good grinder blade is a lot of times is all you need. And I know if you're just doing 1 or 2 bathrooms for yourself, you're not going to want to go out and spend $800 on a towel saw, or really buy any towel saw whatsoever. Even renting them can be kind of inconvenient. You rent that for, I think, for a week, you might as well have gone out and bought a towel saw at that point, because I think a lot of places charge, you know, really kind of overcharge for that type of thing. So let's get into the back. Again, anybody has any questions, leave them in the chat here. I can pause things, go over it, clarify things, do whatever we need to do to try to help you out with your own project.
Okay, so what we're going to be using for this, because these are larger tiles, we're going to be using what you call as a Euro trowel. Now this is made by Ox, but it's basically a combination between kind of like a 3/8 and 1/2 inch notch trowel and a 1/4 by 3/8 inch notch trowel. So it's kind of in between, but these are made for large format tile, anything over 15 inches. I like this a lot. It kind of reduces, it's not as much thin set as a 3/8 by 1/2 inch notch trowel would be. But it also, it applies pretty well. So, but trowel size, you know, it's not always about the thickness of the tile. It has to do with what kind of coverage you're actually getting. So my recommendation is try to go with, you know, go with the minimum trowel that you can, and then double check to see what kind of coverage you're getting. But typically, larger tile are going to require something like a 1/4 by, or a 3/8 inch notch trowel, 1/4 by 3/8, or a 3/8 by 1/2 inch, and this is kind of the combination of those two. So that's why I like the Euro trowel a lot. So first thing is you always want to use the flat side of the trowel when you're troweling. This will make sure that the thin set's well bonded, but also makes it easier to actually apply the thin set. Kind of glides over. And I would recommend, if you're not tiling all the time, just to do enough thin set for 2 rows, because you don't want this, you don't want to be troweling this and letting this sit for too long. I would say 20 minutes, and then you have to set your tile. If not, you're gonna have to scrape it off and reapply, because you don't want all the trowel ridges getting skinning over, which means that the thin set's not going to bond very well to the actual tile. So you want to use directional troweling, so having all these ridges in the same direction. And what that does is, when you set the tile, you kind of move it back and forth a little bit, it collapses these ridges and then gives a really good bond to that tile. If you kind of just did swirl patterns, it's not going to collapse and you're going to end up with voids. So that's why you always want to do the directional troweling.
You can see how creamy that stuff is too.
Okay, then
So a lot.
you also want to
nicer
back
than
butter
the
your
box
tile.
thin sets.
So just using the flat side of the trowel and then coating that whole back. So you just kind of collapse them. And you know, I'm going to check this first tile to see how that looks. Okay, so just pull this first tile and take a look at it. So looking at the back of this, that's pretty much I got a little bit of missing thin set here because I don't have any in that corner, but what you're looking for is 95% coverage in a shower. So I would consider this 95%, probably the 5% missing here on the edges, which I can clean up. But if you still see your ridge lines, like your real ones, this one's just kind of suctioned out. But if you still see ridge lines, that means you're not getting enough coverage. And I always do like my thin set. So the water ratio, this is the Ardex X5. I go 6.5 quarts. It's between 6 and 7 quarts. I kind of stay in the middle for the bigger tile. But if you're doing subway tile or something smaller, you might want to go with a wetter ratio just to make sure that you're going to get that good coverage.
Worst thing is just having too thick a thin set and not getting good bond your tile. So that's why I'm really always stressing about the water ratio. And that includes your membranes too. If you're using Schluter products, the biggest problems that you see.
Then you also want to put
from thin set mixture.
You want to have a little bit of expansion and contraction, so you want to put a shim underneath your first row. I like using these horseshoe shims a lot. I think they're really nice and easy to use, much better than those rubber spacers. But you know, the main reason you want to have this joint is to for the expansion and contraction, but also if you caulk or have any type of grout, you want to have something that's actually going to catch into that corner. And then I'm going to be using T-Lock leveling system. So these are 16th inch clips. You can get these in different sizes, but they're basically they're a spacer incorporated with the locking wedge. And what this is going to do is eliminate any lippage. So I got the 16th inch thick grout joints, but you can get the 32nds or 1/8 inch, whatever you prefer for your grout size.
They really do make it a lot easier. So yeah, spend your time on that first row, making sure that it's nice and level, because that sets you up for success for the rest of them. A lot easier. And you'll see me using this tool constantly. It's not exactly a tile
And you
tool.
also want to make sure you have a little gap in your corner too. Again, expansion, contraction. I know it seems odd that tile would do that, but if you want a really long-lasting shower, you're going to want to keep these gaps clear, because when it gets cold or hot, things expand and contract, and if you don't have any room for it, it will end up cracking that corner and possibly causing some problems. So just leave that little bit of expansion, contraction.
And it is a movement joint too. Your walls move too. Now I better turn this sound off. All right, sorry guys, I have to take the music off or I'm gonna get nailed for the copyright of it. So, but in my actual video on this, you'll be able to hear the video or the audio of it. But yeah, it's just kind of rinse and repeat to this process. But once you set that first row nice and level, it makes the rest of this really nice and easy. So yeah, just matter of not spreading too much thin set out at once. Just give yourself some time so that you have time to set that and make sure that you're getting a good bond with your tile.
On this main level here, so we want to basically notch out that little area there.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep turning off this audio because of the music I have on there. But yeah, this is a great grinder system. I've been using this for a really long time. Actually, oh, sorry, I was hooking up the wrong audio on here. Anyways, that grinder system with the shop vac really helps out. It keeps down the dust, allows you to be able to do a lot of the work just sitting there in the bathroom rather than have to run outside.
Because you want this to tilt in towards the shower. You don't want water sitting on the back edge of that. So yeah, give yourself a little bit of room. but we'll just clear this out for now. But actually, I'm going to temporarily keep that in there so I can get an accurate measurement. This is another thing where it is nice for weedy. I can just take the little blade here and just hold it in. Like again, if you don't go all the way through the waterproofing, you're okay, but I could also just touch this up with some weedy sealant too. But that'll just hold that temporarily while I figure out what I need here.
All right, yep, there we go. Got to turn that music down again. Yeah, so these glass shelves are really simple and nice and easy to work with. Just a matter of just notching out over top of them and making sure they're obviously pitched. You don't want water sitting on that back end of the of that round niche. Well, I'm sorry, shelf, I should say. Brett, I would say so. I think those T-lock clips are worth every bit on a lot of these installations. Makes it a lot quicker and faster. Now the punishment is having to clean out the grout joints.
We're going to do our glass shelf here. So we just need to mark from this corner.
I just think you get a better look of it, and it's a lot less frustrating using those clips. I mean, I know they're, if you're only doing it for one project, it's going to cost you $100 for all those clips to a contractor who's doing it all the time.
A little bit of wiggle room in here so that we can be able to pitch this shelf. So that's going to work out well.
For a contractor that does this all the time, it doesn't really add up very much at all because you just buy the clips and you already have the wedges. So, you might be talking about $20 a job, $25 maybe. So I can understand where if you're, starting out and you're buying $100 worth of this stuff, it can add up a little bit. But at the end of the day, especially with these bigger tiles, this one, okay, I mean, it's not that big of tile, but bigger ones, you almost need them. Okay, so now sanding the border, it really depends on the thickness of the mosaic that you're installing. These 2x2 travertine were actually a little bit thicker than the actual wall tile, so by the time I put my wall tile up with the thin set layer beneath it, this worked out perfectly, and just using that Euro notch trowel. Now, if you got a mosaic that is a little bit thinner, which most are, a good idea is the night before is to put it on some Curdy band, so you can take that whole piece up and place it, and you don't have to continue to work and make sure that that is even with the outside towel. Now you want to use a grout float to embed it, make sure that it's well bonded, and then using these horseshoe shims, I mean, they're a tremendous help spacing everything out, and then if you're doing the mosaic on the Curdy band, it makes it even easier because you don't even have any spacing that you have to really be concerned about. So, and then at the top of the ceiling, you do want to leave a little bit of a space. I usually leave about a 16th inch space, and that's primarily just so when I use a siliconized latex, it has something to actually bond into, and then it's going to be a long-lasting joint for that movement joint. Okay, so that's the back end of the wall. That was pretty much the first part of the morning for the most part. Now, in the link of this description as well, make sure you grab my checklist for must-have tile tools. I have a lot of links in here. Some of it will help me out if you buy them because they go through Amazon, but it really just kind of highlights all the different, my whole setup that I have there. So having that grinder with the dust shroud, that really helps out. Like, again, I mean, the ability to not have to run up and down the steps to be able to cut a piece of tile, this really saves a lot of time. So I think it's worth it. It definitely has saved me from having to run up and down, but getting it, even just a corded grinder, because you can plug that into the shop vac. That's how this thing works, by the way. You have a shop vac that actually has a plug port on it. So you just plug it in, and then once you go to use the tool, it turns on the shop vac and sucks everything out. So really great system. Now, it's not cheap. Definitely costs you some money. You'll probably have well over $1,000 wrapped up into this whole system. But again, it's going to save you a lot of time if you're doing this all the time. And then I have a lot of the other recommendations within this checklist as well. about, for helpful things to use. So that grinder blade, that CGX, where is that? CGX. I have that somewhere here. Hand diamond blades. I don't know. I have it in here somewhere. I think it's underneath the tile cutter. Good blade here. So yeah, the CGX blade. This is my favorite cutting blades to this point. This is great for porcelain tiles. It works for just about anything. So that's really helpful. Yeah, you can check that out. It doesn't, obviously I'm not charging anything for that. You could just, see what I'm using there. But I do have all those links down here below. So that's the one thing in my course that I don't really want you to go back and have to watch a 15-minute video like that. I think it's important to have some things to go over quickly, just to set, when you're in the day of actually doing it, just a reminder, setting that back wall up first so that you can eliminate that grout joint looking straight out to you. It makes it a little bit easier to cut that tile using a leveling system. Brett, like I said, you got to try it out, man. I really think it's worth it, especially with the bigger tiles. This plank tile, my goodness, some of those plank tiles can be an inch. The bowing of it from the middle to the edges could be just completely ridiculous, and it's the only way to get your floor nice and flat. But I think you will get a superior flat surface by using a system like this, within reason. I mean, if you're using a 12 by 12 tile, maybe you're not going to see a whole bunch, but 12 by 24s, yeah, I think you'll definitely notice a difference at the end of the day. And then where it really becomes, most stone tile, like marble and all that stuff, that's usually really, really flat because they cut that to make it flat. Whereas the porcelains are, I don't really know the process of how they make porcelain, but the porcelains are always the ones they are really bowed. But natural stone and stuff, they're very, very flat to begin with. So that can be, in some ways, easier to do with that. But I honestly, ever since I started using leveling clips, I use it for everything. I don't really, I won't do it for 12 by 12s necessarily, or 4 by 12s sometimes. Again, it really depends on the tile, but a lot of these tiles right now are not very, flat. They always have a curve in it. And if you're doing a half pattern or something like that, you're going to need that additional pinching to make it look right. So just other considerations, again, is if you have a really bowed tile, maybe go on a third pattern. Don't do the half pattern. Try to eliminate the lippage between it, because if you have a really bad curve trying to go half pattern, it's just going to make it harder to keep that lippage nice. Even with a leveling clip, it could be pretty tough. A good laser makes a big difference, world of difference. Really helps you on the layout, keeps that first tile all nice and straight, and then once you have a level starting point, the rest of it kind of becomes somewhat of a breeze. And I also have a whole bunch of writing in here, just kind of goes over that whole deal. One area, this is one area I wanted to say, is that it's sometimes, you could try to do all the layout you want, and then you get into the field and you end up with a sliver somewhere. Just know that there's other ways to go about adjusting things. One common way that's really nice and have your ability is just to grow. Like if you were going to end up with like a 1-inch sliver on here, maybe just expand your border another tile piece thicker. That would make a world of difference. That'll eliminate that lippage. So, adjusting your border can always make that easier for you. And just know that there are some exit strategies, especially when it comes to a niche. You really want to plan, if you have a recessed niche, to overhang that niche a little bit on that tile, so that you have ability to build up the sill and the sides of your tile in that niche. You can always shrink the niche. It's just really, really painful to have to expand it. So I always make sure that, recommend that you overhang that niche so that you don't have any issues with meeting up with it. Scribe cutting your first tile, it's just using that grinder and making sure it contours to the bottom of the floor, making sure that you have an even grout joint at the floor. I always recommend to always start out with less than a full tile at your first row, just in case your floor shower is not 100% level or 100% even. You don't want to have a big gap on one side versus the other. And that even includes on a tub. A lot of plumbers will set a tub and maybe they're not 100% level. It could be a 1/4 inch out. You don't want to have a 1/4 inch gap on your left side and then nothing on the right. You want to be able to scribe cut the tile so that it has a nice even joint. It's really going to make it look professional. Most of the time, it doesn't usually end up working out starting out with a full tile. Now, some areas, some situations, might call for it, but just plan on cutting a little bit of that first tile down so that you can scribe cut it. Again, I'm not promoting Ardex. I'm not sponsored by Ardex. I just feel like if you're a beginner or if you don't do a lot of tile work, getting this stuff, going to the tile shop, I know they're nationwide here in America anyways, but getting Ardex X5 is going to make your life so much easier. It's a really great consistent grout or tile or thin set, I should say, that will last a long time. Your trowels, great for large format tile. I don't know. It's just the way that it keys in. It really provides a lot of good coverage, and also doesn't make that thin set layer too awfully big, which is nice too. So real yard trowel, definitely think it's worthwhile having one of those. Always directional troweling, spreading them out. Don't go over 10 minutes worth that you can do it, or it'll skin over and not have a good bond to that tile. Back buttering tiles are important on larger tile. Now, you don't have to do that with subway tile, but I would say if you're doing like a 4x12 or an 8x8, back buttering is not going to hurt. It's always going to allow you to have some better coverage ultimately. And, by TCNA standards, you want to have 95% coverage. That's going to make sure that you have a well sound bonded shower. Maintaining that space in the corners for the movement. Allowing silicone to go into that joint will make sure that silicone joint lasts a really long time as well. Again, leveling clips are really helpful. Just marking out your shelving. Again, here's all the equipment that I use to do all that work with inside the shower area. Keeps down that dust. Now, I still do wear a respirator. That's one thing I've been really getting better at these days, because the older I get, the more I realize how much damage I've probably done to my body by inhaling all this tile dust, doing this all these years. Don't be like me in my younger ages where I didn't really wear a mask for any of this stuff, and just this stuff is not any good for you. It's a real problem in our industry. The silicosis, or I don't even really want to read into too much of that, because I know over the years I've just inhaled way too much tile dust, and I'm trying to eliminate that. So get a good respirator. And really, anything on my platform, anything on YouTube that you watch, you got to take your accountability on yourself to be able to make sure you're doing things safely. So I'm just representing the way I do things. I'm not always the safest person. Wear those safety glasses. Use those grinders in the way that you feel comfortable with. I obviously have a missing finger here, so you have to keep that into account, that this stuff is dangerous. This is not something that you can not going to get harmed by. Tiling can be dangerous, and you need to take precaution to take responsibility for yourself and your own projects. So that's my disclaimer, but don't follow everybody 100% on YouTube, because you really have to take your own abilities into consideration on how you're doing things. Pitching that shelf is important, providing that gap, to be able to pitch that shelf. You don't want to have water sitting on the back end of that shelf. Now, setting borders, that's a wild card. It depends on the tile that you're using on the walls, but I would say for the most part, it's if you have the same thickness of tile as your border, then you're going to probably want to use, there's multiple ways of going about making this easier for yourself. And one, you could use, like in this particular bathroom, it was pretty easy. I had that 1/2 inch travertine met up with my 3/8 inch tile grate after having all the thin set behind my tile. So I didn't even have to do anything. That made it really, really simple. Whereas when you're doing like these glass mosaics, it might be a little bit more difficult. So you can, especially with a 1 foot wide piece like this, you could put that on Curdy Band the night before, but then you're still going to have quite a workout actually getting that up onto the wall, especially if you're doing a waterfall feature like this. So you can use some Schluter Dietra for that. Build out that tile below. That usually works out really well with mosaics with larger 12 by 24 inch tile, just using a strip of Schluter, and then you can embed it. And I always say, basically account for your mosaics to be even with your tile. So whatever it takes to be even, and then you apply your thin set, because the thin set layer behind these mosaics are very, very minimal. I mean, I feel you'd be better off having a little bit of proudness on your mosaic than having it indented in. There's nothing worse in my mind than looking at a border that's indented into the tile work. It just shows sloppiness. It just shows unprofessionalism to me. It is all personal preference. If you like that look, that's great. To me, I cringe when I see that. So I'd rather see the border actually come out a 16th if it had to. I don't want it to, but if it did, I'd rather see that than having it indented. I just feel like it's a better look. Another way you can do it on the spot, if you don't have time to put your border on a Schluter membrane, is to just simply put some Curdy band and build up that surface. You can keep adding as many layers of that Curdy band to make that even. But really, this is the ultimate way. This is the way most people are doing this now, is to put it on a Curdy membrane the night before and just stick it up as one whole piece. You can build up as much thinset behind it and not have to worry about it coming through. Especially these new mosaics, man. These new mosaics are getting thinner and thinner. All the glass is like half as thick as it used to be. So it really becomes a real pain to try to install these without having anything back on it. Like this stuff was from Home Depot, cheap. I mean, it looks great. At the end of the day, it looks like anything else, but it's cheap. I mean, it's only a 1/4 inch thick. I don't even know if I would even want to try to set that on the wall without having it embedded on the back of a membrane like this. So if you have the time to do that, set it up the night before. Makes it a heck of a lot easier for yourself. And then again, maintaining that gap at the ceiling will provide a good ability for the siliconized latex caulk that you would want to use for that ceiling joint. It'll keep that from cracking. And the siliconized part of that will allow it to be expandable, but then the latex will allow you to paint it the same color as the ceiling. I do have a video on that. We don't have to go through on how to do that. This is pretty kind of in somewhat common sense. You're just basically thin setting down your mosaic on the band, and then you're just cutting it to fit and just sticking it all in one place. So it really makes it easy. So Eli, thanks so much for being here. Brett, yeah, man, we'll do next time. I've been fighting those long planks for great advice. Thanks. Yeah, definitely check out the T-lock, especially on plank tile. Will definitely make things easier for you. So, all right, so we're an hour in. Let's go ahead into our tiling the sidewall. Maybe we'll leave the plumbing wall and curb and even the niche for a next one. You know, I didn't really want it just to be a 10-part series, but I do talk a lot, and there is a lot of information to go over here. So let's go over the tiling, the sidewall. The sidewall is going to be pretty straightforward. This is really, in this type of shower, this is what I try to achieve, is to set the back wall and at least one side wall. So then the second day, I'm just doing the plumbing wall and my curb, and then the third day I can grout. So a lot of times you can get, as a contractor, my plan was to have this entire shower ready for glass enclosure by end of 1 week. So the first day is like demo, getting your plumbing faucet system in, doing the framing, and then moving the shower drain obviously to get it centered. The third day is basically setting the waterproofing, and then setting your shower floor tile so that the next day you're ready to walk on your shower floor. So this is the fourth day that you'd be installing the back wall and the side wall, and then tomorrow would be the plumbing wall. So then you have one more day of grouting. So I already kind of went over my extended period of time. Wait, I'm sorry. First day is demo, installing your shower faucet, moving the shower drain. Second day is waterproofing, putting down your tile floor. So, okay. So then third day, you would be getting into this back wall, side wall. And then tomorrow, or the fourth day, would be the plumbing wall, curb, and then you can grout by day 5. And then the people can use the shower that weekend, and then once the glass enclosure comes in, you can go ahead and do it. But I do recommend, and even you'll see in my course here on the shower doors, I mean, unless you're going to get a shower door kit that can vary in quite a bit on the width of it, I really do recommend you tile everything first and then measure and then order your shower enclosure. If you're going to get something that's frameless, that has to be within a specific width, you don't want to be guessing where your tile work is. You can have a good estimate, but in my mind, you're spending almost $1,000 on that shower kit. At least $800 for it. It depends on the size of shower you're doing it on. But to me, I just don't think it's worth the risk of screwing up that order, because you're not going to be able to send it back without paying an arm and a leg to have it sent back. You'd be better off just selling that enclosure to somebody in your neighborhood than to have to ship it back, because I don't think people realize how much shipping actually does cost. They hide those costs within when you're ordering stuff, especially on Amazon. But a shower enclosure, you make a mistake on that, trying to return it could cost you $300 just to return it. So I do think it's best just to towel everything, then order it. You can use a temporary shower curtain in the meantime and be okay. So anyways, let's go ahead and show you this sidewall. It's it's pretty streamlined, but it gives you some reference and some guidance on finishing this off.
So we're going to go ahead and do our sidewalls here. So what we want to do is we're going to be dictated by our end wall here. So let's measure what our total distance is there. It's 20 3/4. So we want to match each side. So we'll go 20 3/4, put our laser on there. And obviously we're putting our laser off of our other horizontal tile to match. And then we're going to be edging with bull nose. So this is going to be fairly simple.
So yeah, for the most part, you always have your edging going outside of the curve.
So we would end up with a 7.5 inch piece. So not much different than our back wall here. So I'm going to cut a bunch of those, and I'm going to start my way up this, making sure it's level, and then just cut all the additional pieces in the corner, because I don't really care if the corner is unlevel in any way, not a big deal, but you want this to be perfectly level, because this is where your door is going to go and everything's going to be looked at on this edge here.
All right, sorry guys, got to take the music off again, or I'm going to get a copyright on that. But yeah, I always recommend having that tile coming outside of your curb area, so when you set the curb you have some room on the other side. But if you're cramped for space, you know, at least go put your curb top down first and then just use that as the reference point to go up. But in this scenario, I had a bump out wall on the right there, so I want to make sure that either side is matched on the other side. But as you can even see too, I have waterproofing that extends out even past the tile work as well. And that will be just addressed with some joint compound as I finish the drywall. And really, at the end of the day, it is kind of nice to have that extra mud on the wall there, because the thin set is actually holding out the bullnose a little bit, and it kind of makes that gap a little bit more minimum to the drywall. So in a lot of ways, it works out well, and it makes sure you have a good waterproofing as well. So this is just dry, rinse, repeat type of thing. But yeah, once you get into this is where it's fun. I mean, I enjoy tile work at this point. After you have the tile layout all set up, it's just kind of you know, it's a fun process. So those tiles on the left side, I did end up taking them through the wet saw, because I like to have the nice, you know, square edges, especially on this ceramic. It doesn't really cut that great on a tile cutter. The real ceramics, porcelain cuts nice and clean, but ceramic sometimes doesn't. So this is just one bag of thin set at this point, doing this back wall and the sidewall. I usually order at least 2 bags of thin set for a shower. Well, in a bathroom, because I did the outside floor as well, I usually order 4 bags for a small bathroom. So that gives me enough to set the pan.
This glass to raise this up so that, well, let me get it level. So you just want to make sure that you're pitched.
If YouTube strikes me on this music, I'll be surprised, but maybe it will.
A wedge underneath here, and I just want to make sure that this is, so it's nice and level that way, but we'll make sure it just ever so slightly pitches into the shower. You don't want it to be too much. You don't want your soap bottles and stuff sliding off there. You just need a very slight amount, just so that water doesn't sit back in that corner.
So no, but what I was going to say is, like, usually about 4 bags of Ardex X5 is what I need for a bathroom. This was basically a 4-foot by 8-foot bathroom. So, you know, the floor tile, setting the Schluter Ditra, and then setting the shower pan, and then basically 2 bags to set the tile. Now, you do have a little bit of waste there, because the next day all I'm doing is the plumbing wall and my curb. So I'll probably have almost, you know, a good half bag of waste potentially overall. So, you know, you're talking about $200 overall worth of thin set. I don't know. To have the ease and the ability to put this together makes it nice.
Pushing it up underneath, so it's kind of a messy way to do it, but
that's my mantra. I am a messy tile installer. I will be the first to admit it.
I'm going to put the shim in here and just use some of this thinset to kind of just support that glass, because you're going to be siliconing the glass and you're not going to be just grouting it. So, but at least having a little bit of thinset underneath of there will support it. And then again, just making sure, maybe I should buy one, new one of these.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I plan on working on, is getting cleaner at my tile work, and you know, just being cleaner in the process will make things easier. But it is a messy job, no matter what, you know, no matter what your skill level is. But I am always impressed by a lot of the tile contractors out there showing their skills. Like, some of them are just so clean and good and quick. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but the end result's what really matters ultimately. So that, like that right there, I mean, I would save, you know, 5 minutes of time having to go outside and cut that tile. So shop vac really made a big difference. So, okay, so that takes care of the sidewall. That's like a fun project because you already have the tile layout set up. Now the plumbing wall, obviously there's a little bit more work there because you got to cut around your escutcheon valves, or around your valves and around your other ports. So it's a little bit more challenging there. But yeah, I mean, really below here, I just kind of have the same guidance I have on the other ones, you know, trying to make sure you continue your pattern. Now, that's one thing I don't know if I mentioned or not, but I do like when I have a brick pattern like this, to continue my folded pieces through, not mirroring them. I just feel like it looks better because it looks like a full tile bending in the corner. But that's all personal preference too. You can see people doing it either way as well. Yeah, this is a very simple installation, and I think overall my tile purchase for all of this was about $800. That's with the border, this the travertine. Bull nose is always what costs you on there. You'll probably have almost more money in the bull nose than you do on the actual field tile in here. I don't know why they charge so much for these edging pieces, but they do. So $800 is not, I would say, is a pretty reasonable price for all of the material for the tile in this bathroom. That includes the outside floor as well. So, you know, if you did subway tile and if you eliminated a border and stuff like that, you can definitely get even cheaper with the installation. But here I have all of the list of all the items that I used in here. And then again, you can always leave me a comment there if you need any help. So, yeah, so I might, let me grab myself here. So I might leave it at that today. And we'll get into the next part of the process on the plumbing wall, tile curb, and then I have some recessed niche information. I might even add more to the recessed niche because I know that's a really desired feature for a lot of people. But then we're going to get to the finish line, you know, grouting it and putting on that shower trim. That's a pretty basic thing. And then the glass enclosure, I have a real in-depth thing there as well. So, you know, but RB07, I see it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter clean or dirty work, it's done. But great results when it's done. Yes, thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my mantra, but I do want to clean up because I'm always on display and I do get a lot of criticism. Maybe not on YouTube so much, but definitely Instagram loves to pick out my flaws on that, including my drywall work. But hey, bathroom remodeling requires all types of skills, you know? I mean, that's the one funny thing. It's like some of these guys that have 20 years experience in drywall work, and then they pick on you about your drywall work. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I haven't been doing nothing but drywall for 20 years. I mean, of course, I hope you're like exceptionally good at it at that point. But bathroom remodeling requires all these different trades to be involved. I mean, you got the plumbing, you got the electrical, you got drywall, you got, you know, trim work, you got tiling, you got the waterproofing. I mean, my goodness, it is one of the most complex areas. So that's what, you know, my channel is all about, is trying to simplify that, just showing you my methods in it. And, you know, I am, you know, I definitely try to keep things quick, but I definitely can slow down and be more particular on different things. So, but yeah, so anyways, thanks for joining me here. Give me a like on this video again. This really helps out the algorithm. Purchase the course if you want to support It's only $40 for this course. I put a lot of effort into it, as you can see. A lot of different links. I'm going to continue to add it and make it better. And really what I'm looking for is some feedback on some things, whether things that you're confused about or you don't, there's situations that might be common that I can address as well. But I just want to make this a great resource online for you. And again, just go to my YouTube channel and you can watch all those other parts of this. And hey, don't forget either, you can always speed up the version of this by just 2xing everything after this is already put out there. So anyways, yeah, have a good afternoon, and I'll see you on the next live stream. Probably won't be till the end of next week, but I might be doing something during coverings here. I'm going to a trade show all of next week, and so maybe I'm going to be meeting up with some of these other YouTuber guys. Maybe we'll do something, maybe we won't. I don't know. If anything, I'm just going to learn and try to see what else is out there, and see what's making things better and easier for bathroom remodeling.